Kiddies, we're back. Part 2 of Rick Rivets' interview. Where we left off was the departure from the New York Dolls, and now we're going to get into the Brats, right?
That's right.
Okay. You mentioned to us that someone, one of the biggest shock rockers of all time, had some influence in naming you guys. Can we get into that story?
Yeah, we had a band together. We had a singer, bass player, and drummer. But we didn't have a name. And Alice Cooper used to hang around Max's a lot back then. And somehow we just got to be friendly with him. Well, we got to be friendly with him because Johnny used to go out with Alice's girlfriend, Cindy, when Alice was on tour. So I remember being at Chelsea in Johnny's room when he gets a call from Alice. And, there's Thunder's arguing on the phone with Cooper over his girlfriend. I'm just sitting there listening. This is unreal. But somehow through that connection, we got to meet Alice. And he just took a liking to us, I guess. He was, he was a really nice guy. And we told him we have a band, but we don't have a name. So he says, well, how about the Husky Babies? I said, that sounds good. Or the Jelly-Filled Liver Donut. I said, well, or the Brats. And he says, you guys look like a bunch of brats, spoiled brats, so I'm naming you the Brats.
Cool.
So he said, cool, it's cool, we're the Brats. And, we sat down at the table. Every time we go there, you see him there. He'd call us over, he'd sit down and have a drink. He always picked up the tab. He's the most generous guy.
That's cool.
Everybody, these people, the straight people, used to look at him like some demon. But, what was he doing? Playing golf with Groucho Marx.
Right. That's so funny. This is how he transforms, like you said, he's such a nice guy, and then he gets up there and he's like some kind of deranged monster up there. But it's all about being a genius, man, and finally, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame finally got it right after all these years. Alice Cooper is definitely well-deservingly into that.
He's an extremely smart person. He's not an idiot. We saw him when the first show came to New York after the 18 album came out. And that's when Arthur jumped on stage and Alice was putting the snake on him and hitting him with pillows. And I think Alice was really getting off, with this audience participation. And, everybody was hysterical, the band. But I don't know if you even remembered that was Arthur from the Dolls, when he started hanging out with the Dolls.
Wow.
But he was a nice guy. There's a lot of people that used to hang around the back room of Max's that, you get to know. And Rod Stewart, you'd see Lou Reed. He hated the Dolls. He didn't like them at all. They went on tour and he wouldn't give them a sound check.
Yeah, he ain't much of a singer to begin with.
Nah.
Great musician, but not much of a singer.
The Transformer album was good, but
he does a lot of. He's got a lot of good music.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a different breed, I guess.
Yeah.
He's a quiet taste, Lou Reed. I mean, it's what it is.
Sweet Jane is a great song.
That's an excellent song.
I love that song. But getting back to this, down the Brats, you guys, when you first started, it was who was in the band?
It was me, Sparky Donovan, who was supposed to be the drummer for the Dolls.
Right.
But he lived out in the island and couldn't make the trips into Manhattan.
It's always about inconvenience.
Yes, it is.
And
so
then
funny.
when Billy died, he auditioned for them again.
Right.
But I knew that they were going to take Jerry.
Oh yeah,
He's a
You
great
know,
drummer.
I remember being in Nobody's with Jerry, and Jerry was going, "What do you think by chance? What do you think?" You know, because they were auditioning. They auditioned about 20-something drummers.
Jesus.
I think it was just for an ego trip. But
They
you know, I mean,
Yeah.
one drum was good, but he didn't look good. You know, he didn't look like a rocker. But Jerry was really, you know, what do you think? What do you think? I said, Jerry, from me to you, you're in. You know, she's going, you kidding me? I said, no. You know, I know it for a fact. Arthur mentioned it. You're gonna be a drummer.
I think that's the one position in a band that really, I mean, you don't have to 100% look the part because you are hidden behind the set and everything, and you're not really out in the front. But, you know, as far as taking band pictures and stuff, it comes out eventually. But even if the guy really didn't look, I mean, if his chops are up, I still think that the drum is like one of the, not the easiest positions to play, but the more legal.
Laxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Jerry, you know, Jerry used to come down to Dollar's practice a lot. So he knew the songs, and he knew us as people. Plus, he was a hell of a fucking nice guy. I mean, I think, you know, besides Arthur, Jerry was probably the nicest guy in the Dolls.
Right.
You know, Jerry never had a bad word to say about anybody. Every time you saw him, there was always a smile and a handshake, a slap on the back, you know, how you doing?
Gone way too soon.
Yeah.
Way too soon.
That's what it's all about, too, man. You gotta be with people that you're able to stomach and that you can hang out with outside of
Right.
being on the stage, man. Because if you can't stand each other, you know, it's tough.
Yeah.
You can't travel with each other. You
Yeah.
can't,
That's like
Plus,
the
so many
Bratz.
bands have different quarters when they travel now.
Oh yeah.
Sick.
Separate bus for this guy, separate bus.
It's a marriage, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah it is. So the Brats, where'd you guys rehearse at? You guys
Well, we got a bass player, David, who lived in the city. He had a loft on Broadway and Houston. So we brought all our equipment up there, and after like 7 o'clock at night, the building closed. He had a key, so we'd go up there and rehearse.
right?
After that closed, his boss got a bigger loft on Bleecker and Broadway. And it was a shop that made watch bands. It was a small area, maybe a fifth of the loft was for watch bands, and the rest was just empty space. So we had our equipment up there, and we rehearsed up there. We were a 4-piece band at that time.
Right.
Just me, bass, drums, and guitar, and singer. We got this guy, Don Calmanassi,
Right.
Keith West, he turned into, and he was a singer. And we started having rent parties, because it was, we'd rent the loft for $100 a month. So like, once a month we'd have a rent party, charge $1 at the door, put up posters, bring your own bottle. That's what fucked us up, the posters, because the cops saw it and they said,
Give
you
the
know,
address right to the place.
Yeah.
Come
Basically,
bust us on
like,
this
please
night.
come here and
you
fuck us up.
can't throw this and have bring your own bottle, you have a permit.
Right.
So we had to get out to City Hall and get a permit and all this shit, all this red tape. But so we did one gig there, it worked out good. And then this guy kept coming in, Keith West. Keith owned the record store across from St. John's, and he dealt a lot of imports and a lot of bootlegs. So we get a lot of people who are into like boots and British albums.
Right.
So one day this guy walks in and he says, you know, I have a band, but we can't get jobs in the city. So, you know, we said, we got a loft, why don't you play with us, you know? He said, you know, really, you know, can we do that? He said, yeah, well, you know, we'll get Wayne County, Jane County will headline. We'll go on second, you guys will open up. Turns out the guy was Paul Stanley.
Wow.
So, you know, we said, what's the name of your band? He said, Kiss. So I said, okay, that's cool. So, the night of the show, you know, they bring up we had the van, so we went to their loft to pick up their equipment. We're using these little Fender-based basements, and they got Marshall stacks, SVPs, you know.
For a loft.
For a loft. And I'm just looking, I'm going, God, these guys are professionals, you know. Peter had the double bass drum. So they set up and they do a sound check. And me and Sparky are standing near the door. And we just looked at each other and we said, we're going to get killed tonight. These guys are going to murder us. They were so fucking tight. I mean, to hear a band loud is one thing, but when they're loud and clear,
right,
you know,
right.
You can hear the vocals clearly. You got 4 guys up there singing. They all were like the same height. I'm thinking, this reminds me of the Beatles. And then he said, we got to go and get changed. So he said, well, we got bathrooms back there. You can change there. He said, no, we got a hotel. We got to get changed.
Sounds like they're struggling.
So we didn't know what this whole thing, what changing was about, until, you know, we said, be back here at 9 o'clock. So, you know, the place is packed, and all of a sudden 9 o'clock comes, the elevator door opens, and they come out in the makeup. And I just looked at them and I said, now I get it.